Marshelle.
Hi, Bridget. This episode,
We're going to talk about
what are the things that are going on in our lives?
it's kind of like maybe this might be like,
Yeah, sorta, kinda.
life lesson.
Hi.
Hey,
Hey.
what's up?
Hot. How are you?
It's hot, guys, which explains why I'm in a different room because, oh my God.
Even I'm just like, mind over matter.
It's
Mic closer,
definitely,
mind over matter.
it was like 80s today. Wait, pause. I'm Bridget.
I'm Marshelle.
This is Yeah, Sorta, Kinda.
Hey, guys. Just like clear my throat.
So here's the deal. Season 2, episode 23. This is a special episode. We've been waiting to do this. This is our listener story episode. So we've collected some of your experiences and stories, and we're going to share them tonight. So we're excited for that. We did tell them. What did we tell them last episode, Marshelle?
That we were going to do,
Maybe.
we wanted to do something lighter.
Yeah, maybe.
We were gonna do coincidences, deja vu,
Serendipity. Thought we
Yes.
might have a guest.
blah blah blah.
All that will happen eventually.
Yes.
Just not tonight because we're doing this.
This, and we were still in the mood to research demons.
And isn't that ironic? Because we were disturbed. We were disturbed, and we've had some sleepless nights, and yet we couldn't stop researching and investigating and learning and reading the books that, you know, a lot of times I'll check out a bunch of books from the library and like kind of pick through them a little bit and then forget about them as soon as we shoot an episode. Not this time. Yeah. Kept revisiting.
No, got a couple of crucifixes. Got my cross on, but not gonna lie,
Symbols of protection.
little bit. Did some saging.
Yeah.
feel a lot better now. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe we spooked ourselves, but I kind of don't think we spooked ourselves, because when you talk about this stuff, you are sort of, you know, waving a big red flag, or, you know, some signaling to the dark things that we're here. So.
And I want to apologize for the road noise. So, like, if you're not watching, you don't see that I'm in the bedroom where the AC is today and not in the dining room, but I'm next to a street. So you're going to hear cars passing. Forgive us. You'll survive.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Oh, and before we get going, I want to say hi to Hannah and Tony,
Hi, Hannah and Tony.
Tony was in our wedding. No, mine and Tommy's, not mine and Bridget's.
I mean, I was in it. So
Yeah, Bridget was in the wedding too.
I was in it.
But they have been loyal listeners, actually watchers, since day one, I think.
So
pretty
hi.
much. So
Hi.
hi guys, we love you.
I'd say hi to
We'll
my
have you guys
mom,
on.
but pretty confident she stopped listening once we started going into exorcisms.
Hi, Mom. Anyway,
And speaking of creepy stories, I think, Marshelle, you're going to start us off with one that we have.
yes, these guys want to remain anonymous, but they do bless and clear houses of dark energy, and they have the same principle idea that we have of it. Evil is ancient. It is ancient. It predates man. So that was kind of interesting to hear somebody say that. So here we go. Here's the first story. I'm just going to read it. The first story is a good example of a haunted house and how a dark presence slowly and methodically takes control. This house was in England, located in the Cotswolds area, and it was a typical charming thatched roof cottage that was built in 1575, the 16th century.
That's really old.
Right?
Yeah.
Don't have
Wow.
that over here, that's for sure. This home was particularly troubled, partly due to its age and history, though we've seen many similar symptoms in newer homes. It had an ancient Viking boat beam as the main ceiling beam in the living room. That sounds
That's
really
really
pretty.
interesting. I wonder if
Right?
it was ornate.
On the living room. And a very old solid stone fireplace with a wide chimney. A couple moved into the home in the early 2000s, and for the first few days didn't experience anything except for a strange, dizzying feeling in one of the bedrooms that they were using as a storage room. After about a week, a strange smell would randomly manifest in the hallway between the kitchen and living room. My wife and I experienced this smell ourselves at the home and would describe it as the smell of a decomposing animal. The smell became more intense over time and would disappear as quickly as it reappeared. At the time, the couple thought the smell was because the house was old and probably needed repairs to sewage piping, that sort of thing. The next significant event was in the bedroom used for storage. The man went into the room and became very dizzy and felt sick. When he left the room, he felt fine. He told his wife about it, and they both went into the room. They closed their eyes to try to get more of a feeling, and both almost fell over as they had lost their balance. We believe that this room was the portal for the negative energies to come and go. Soon after, the woman began to feel something touching her hair very lightly at random. It would happen during the day and night. Then she began to hear scratching on the walls and was concerned that the house had mice or rats. The bedrooms all had solid wood doors with old-fashioned metal latches. At night, the latches would make noise, and the bedroom doors would open on their own. Over time, footsteps could occasionally be heard on the wooden stairs of the winding staircase, and several noises were heard outside, from what sounded like a large party to a distinct otherworldly scream. The woman became pregnant. Right. The woman became pregnant, and during her pregnancy, experienced an increase in activity in the home. Her husband worked shifts, and one night, as she was almost asleep, she felt something pulling her bed sheets, not off the bed, but as a child would to gain attention. Another night, she felt the weight of a person get onto the bed next to her, even though there was nothing visible. The smell in the hallway worsened, and she realized that something was very wrong with the house. Due to their financial predicament at the time, they were unable to move, so they decided to remain in the house until their baby was born. One day, while in the garden, the woman looked up at her bedroom window and saw a clear image of a man in his 50s with Victorian mutton chop sideburns looking out at the window at her. The apparition slowly disappeared. After their child was born, they had more events in the home, and one night the baby's crib was slowly rocking the baby to sleep by itself, like in a movie. I had a moment, sorry. There was also a feeling of impending doom throughout the house at times, like a cloud that followed them from room to room. They tried to find out more about the house, but had very little recorded history. There was a rumor that a witch had lived in the house at some point during the 17th century, but this was possibly just a local story. Eventually the house was blessed and all activity ceased, and then the family moved shortly after.
So it was eventually blessed. I'm assuming by this couple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then the activity ceased. I mean, that really covered the gamut of like every kind of thing you ever really hear of, from something you might say that sounds like a ghost haunting to something you'd say that sounds or smells demonic. Like that was a little bit of everything.
The scratching.
The screaming. The
screaming. The dizziness.
But then you think something like, like a little play, like a kid playfully tugging on the sheets for attention, or somebody rocking a baby. That's creepy, but it's not the scariest thing I've ever heard. Not that it needs to be, but I'm just saying it's interesting. It goes from everything from smelling death to someone's rocking your baby.
That would freak me out.
Well, of
that
course.
would freak me out. The portal thing is what that means. A portal can be created, from what I read in some of these books. It can also, where something bad happened, something really bad happened, can create, it kind of thins the veil, basically. And so...
In other words, that word that's coming to mind for whatever reason is vortex, and I guess maybe because of how dizzy they were feeling, that makes me think vortex.
Yeah.
I mean, I've definitely stood in places in my life where I've felt my body kind of move in a spiral, if you will. Not like I'm spinning like a top, but you kind of are leaning from side to side, and it's like, why is my body moving like this?
Yeah.
Although I can't think of a time where that happened where it was negative. I'm sure. Can you think of a time when it was like...
That's what I was trying to think. I know I've definitely I felt something sit on the bed next to me. That's frightening. I felt things pull my hair.
Yeah.
I mean, over the years. The vortex. Portals, there's definitely a sense of dread. There's definitely a sense of... and like in some of these books that I'm reading, Deliver Us From... That was the name of the movie from last episode, by the way. When we were talking, I couldn't remember the name of it. Deliver Us From Evil with Eric
Which
Bana.
I've since watched. Actually, we both watched it the same day. We decided,
Yeah,
we're
we
like, hey, let's
did.
watch it.
Yeah.
It's bloody.
Yeah.
It's like, okay,
And
whoa, it's bloody.
Yeah, well, he was a cop, so, you know, that's part of his world was...
Blood.
I'm
kidding.
What?
I said blood. Part of his world was blood.
Well,
I'm just
yeah,
kidding.
It
was distinctly masculine feeling. There was like a masculine vibe to the film.
What was I saying? Vortex, evil. I remember them saying, though, in that book that... And then it's kind of like, what comes first? Is it that something evil is there, and that's why people get tortured in these spots, or they, you know...
well, if evil predates man, and there's entities that are trying to inhabit our bodies, which that's what the whole exorcism conversation was kind of talking about. There's that at play, so they're looking for opportunity, right? But then there's the other side of that would be like if somebody passes away, but maybe they are stuck or whatever, the ghost element, that's to me, that's more of like, hey, get out of my house,
Yeah, the confusion.
Yeah, like they don't quite realize that they're dead and they should go to the light.
You know what, though? Sometimes I don't know that it's really all of them, because I've read and heard that when someone dies violently or something, that it's not that they're still there, but maybe there's an echo of that energy of like what happened, you know? So I don't know. Unknowable things.
That's unknowable.
Unknowable things.
Do you have more you want to add to that? Should we jump into our next?
No, let's just keep going, because we can always add more to it.
So our buddy Artie, hi Artie.
I was just hi Artie.
He was inspired by the Shadow Man episode that we did a few episodes back to tell us this experience that he had, and he recorded it for us. So we're going to play it for you now. Here we go.
Hey Marshelle and Bridget, how are you guys? This is Artie. I am one of your fans from Sorta Kinda.
Yay.
So I wanted to talk about the topic of shadow people, specifically the Shadow Man with the hat. Because up until that episode, I thought I was the only one who ever saw that.
Nope.
So this all began when I was around 6 years old, when my family and I moved to City of Bell. And this house, cute house, small. I'm a very visual person, so bear with me. When you would get to the front door, you would open it, and the living room was right there. It was open living room, so there was a divide between the living room and the kitchen. It was open, so you're able to easily just walk in and out. At the very end of the very back part of the house, there was 2 rooms on the left and on the right side. So, as a kid, I didn't think much of it. As a kid, I didn't even know what anything was, spirit-wise, ghost-wise, anything. So just to jump to the story, one night my grandma had came down to visit, so I slept in a different room. I got up in the middle of the night. I was hot, I was sweaty, and
Me right now.
and I thought to myself, man, I really want to cool off. So I get up and go into the living room. Now we had a couch that was right in front of a window, and the window was the front of the house. So the window was open. Not that it was open. The window was closed. The blinds were up. So I was able to see what was outside. If people walked by, they would be able to see inside. So I remember sitting down and thinking, oh man, this feels really good. And I started to drift off. Suddenly, it got really cold. Really cold. To the point where I was like, never mind, I'll just get up and go back to my room. So I'm sitting on this couch, and on my right, there's like a wall. Like the couch was wedged in between a wall and another wall. So as I turned around, I noticed there was a figure on the wall of a shadow. And I'm thinking to myself, what the heck? Who is outside? right? That was the first thing that came to mind. So I turn around, look outside. It's absolutely nobody. No one. Very confused at this point. I turn back to the shadow, and there's something that Marshall said about the hat that was very specific, because it looked like he was wearing almost like a top hat. Like the front of the hat was very it just looked kind of like old style. I don't know how to explain it. And I remember the hands in particular. It was a shadow on the wall of this silhouette of what looked like a man. And his hands, it's like he was moving them, like in, I don't know how to explain this. Like if you were tapping your fingers on the table, just that movement, whatever that movement is,
Right?
Yeah.
on the wall.
Yeah.
Oh, on the wall.
And then the shadow started coming down toward me. So, when that started happening, I panicked. I freaked out. My hair stood up everywhere, back of my neck, my arms, my little leg hairs that I had at that age. That was a joke because I don't think I had any.
That's so cute.
I got up and I power walked straight to my room, or the room that I was sleeping in, covered myself, and done. That was it. Next morning, I told my mom. She just gave my dad a look, and she was like, "Oh, it was just a tree, honey." Well, years later, when we moved out of that place, I brought that up again because it was just something that was very traumatic,
Yeah.
and it stuck with me. And they finally told me, yeah, the man who used to live there ended up committing suicide in the kitchen. He hung himself, and the kitchen is connected to the living room. I don't know how much that relates to the Shadow Man, but suicides are usually left with some negative energy, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
So that was interesting that this was the first time I've ever heard anyone describe Shadow Man with a hat. That specifically, and that really tripped me out. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys. I hope you guys have a good day.
Oh, thanks, Artie.
Yeah, thanks, Artie.
He kind of just echoed what you had just said about the negative energy and it being like, to me, that seems like it could draw negative entities to it, of course, yeah.
Or that negative energy made the man kill himself. Which,
Oh.
I mean, that's what I'm starting to think. I mean, I don't know. Reading some of these stories about people buying a house that maybe used to be a morgue, and all the hauntings that occur. Because ghosts are one thing. What?
I just sent you a listing today of a house in Missouri that has a jail attached to it. And I was
That's in Missouri?
Yeah. It's like, this is a beautiful home. Mm-hmm. But this was built in the 1800s in Missouri, and I just feel like that's going to be creeptastic. Like,
there's a big satanic undercurrent in Missouri. Sorry, but there is. Artie, the whole thing with that, I've heard of the shadow, I can't remember where I've heard that though, or where I read that about it seeming to do something along the wall, like what he was describing. The hat guy though, I don't know. I mean, they like to taunt you.
Also, have you noticed in both this and the last story, the people the first thing they go to is what's the most logical explanation for this?
Yeah.
It's it's a tree, or it was somebody must be standing outside the window.
Yeah,
oh wait, there's
could be.
nobody there, or what I mean? It's our minds want to go to the most logical. We don't want it to be something terrifying. We usually
I love
want
how
it
your
to
voice
be,
is our minds wanted to. Yeah, it was great. But it's true, and that's what we say. We are truly skeptics. You guys don't. I don't know if you really realize how skeptical we are, but when you can't scientifically explain it, because there's just a lot out there. I'm sorry, science can't explain, and so therefore, to me, that means something else is going on. And I believe in evil and good and
Good too.
supernatural
Good too.
and
yeah.
huh?
I was just emphasizing and good, yeah, evil
Yeah,
and
yeah,
good,
yeah.
good too.
Yeah.
Both.
Oh, yeah. Well, I said that. Yeah. Evil, good. I believe in all of that. I just definitely think there's way more to this world than.
Well, I think the good in some ways is more emphasized in a lot of the religious contexts. My mom and I were kind of talking about this. And so a lot of people just don't believe that the dark stuff is a thing.
Yeah, they don't want to. And I think that's what we were saying in the last episode about exorcism and what I've been continuing to read. If we think that there isn't evil, then it has more of a hold on us. You know, it's like the perfect camouflage.
Yes. So,
you know,
should we? It's time for the Michael's Ouija board.
Yes.
All right.
I was looking at something. Sorry. Yeah,
it's okay. She was looking at her list. She's like, "Nuh-uh." Oh wait.
Oh yeah. Like, oh wait. Yeah, we switched the order. Yeah,
we did. We had a few ways we thought about doing this. All right. Dear, sorta, kinda. Hello. So here's why I'll never play with or keep a Ouija board. In the summer of 1991, my parents bought a house in Waco. The garage had a bunch of the previous owner's junk that we had offered to clear out. Amongst the various books, newspapers, and board games was a Ouija board hidden under the board games. We, my siblings and I, pulled it out and kind of played around with it. Mind you, we didn't know what it was, so we were just rolling dice on it because why not? Well, my mom saw it and told us to put it away. The next year, my parents rented a roll-away dumpster to clear the garage out. We placed all the board games and the Ouija board into a box and tossed it into the dumpster. The box, over the course of the day, was buried under various other trash and junk we were tossing. The next day, we walked into the garage to finish cleaning, and the board was back in the garage, as if nothing had happened. We looked at each other and blamed the other for it, so I took it and tossed it back in. We continued cleaning. Again, the board covered by refuse. Do you say it like refuse? He means trash. And the dumpster was hauled away. The next morning, we went into the garage, and the board was back. Same place, now sitting on the shelf instead of the game it once sat on. I know that the board was taken away. I made sure that my brothers and sisters couldn't pull it out as I threw it deep into the dumpster and made sure to cover it with trash I threw away. The thing had kind of always creeped me out, so I didn't want anything to do with it when Mom took it away. I was 9. LOL. And my siblings wouldn't have crawled into the dumpster while I was there. Mom grabbed it and the lighter fluid and walked over to the burn barrel where she threw it in. The barrel burned out and the ashes remained. We never moved the barrel. It stayed as a reminder of what happened. And that's my truth. I've stayed away from Ouija boards ever since. I'm not a religious or spiritual person, but I do believe that there are forces in this world we can't account for. That is one example I've experienced. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael. It's like a movie where it keeps coming back.
Yeah.
There's a lot of similar themes. You hear a lot of the stories. There's a similar thing of like it keeps coming back, or.
I mean, you can't help but wonder. Yeah, okay. You hear this story and you're like, well, I don't know this kid at 9. Like maybe somebody was messing with him. Mom was trying to teach him a lesson. Maybe, but it sounds like he really went through great lengths to bury this thing under trash. Like he really made a point, and to keep an eye on it to make sure his siblings didn't pull it out. I don't know. What do you think, Marshelle?
No, it reminds me of my sister's story that I'm going to read about the Ouija board. Like,
should we just jump right into your sisters?
Yeah, let's do, and then we can just like talk about the two of them because it's similar. And from the stuff I've been reading about Ouija boards, this is the common thing. People try to get rid of these things, and there it is. You know what I mean? Oh, there's the planchette. The planchette. Now, a Ouija board, there's the board with all the letters and the yes and the no and the numbers. That's all I need to say. And there's a planchette, which is like a tear-shaped thing with like a little window, and that you're supposed to guide over, and you can see it spells things out.
Yeah.
Just so you know, for those of you who don't know. Now, my sister and I, she messed around with it when she was like 15 or 16 at first. with her friend. It's just a typical Ouija board, she said, that you got from Walmart. And they thought, maybe they were just kind of, they're like, it could have easily been faked, like the first time when she messed with it. Then she's 18 years old and with a best friend of hers at the time. You okay? What happened?
My neighbor's being really loud, so sometimes when they close their, it just startled me because I'm hearing it through my headphones. It's just confusing.
And
sorry. If you guys don't
That's okay.
hear.
So my sister's 18 years old and with a former best friend, and they decide to try the Ouija board again because this former friend of hers, is what they used to call, I don't know what kind of, a bench crawler, which means that she can bring in both good and bad spirits.
Bring them in?
Yeah, this is an Oklahoma thing. I don't know if she's like a medium. I'm not really sure.
I don't know that I've heard that term. Okay.
I know, but it sounds very like mountain folky to me. So
bench crawler.
Let's see. She said, okay, so they were in the back of a truck, like in a park, I guess, at night, and they had some candles in a truck bed, and they had the Ouija board. And they were messing around with it. Nothing was really happening. And then all of a sudden, the planchette started moving. So then they're like thinking, oh, you're doing it. Like each of them is thinking, you're doing this, I'm not doing it. This isn't really working. And they looked at each other and they were like, what the hell? She's like, and then I remember we were asking some probably random questions. And then we started to get a little freaked out. So we started to say,
sweating. I'm sorry. Continue.
All right. Then they started to get a little freaked out. So they asked it to say goodbye because you're supposed to ask it to say goodbye, they say, because otherwise the spirits stay around. But it wouldn't say goodbye. And then it just kept saying no. And then it started doing this countdown. It started going 3, 2, 1. And then all of a sudden, around them was like this sound, like this pitch black. Well, she said it went black. The candles blew out. This is what she said. Could have been the wind. I don't know. But she said there was like this sound around them, like a tunnel. It was really loud. And they started to really completely freak out. The wind started picking up. It got creepier. She said you could just feel this like heavy spirit was kind of like in the air, and you just felt really tense, and you felt like something was all around you. And they kept asking it to say goodbye, and then finally it did. And then it did the countdown one more time, and then they started freaking out, so they packed up and they quit. It's like, and then I never did it again until with my sister Marshelle, and that was the most frightening experience of my life.
So that was an experience she had that was frightening, but the one she had with you is the most frightening of her life?
Of her life. That's what she said.
And that's what you're about to tell us.
That's what I'm about to tell you. I had to tell you the other one because she had done it before, and I was like, let me hear about that.
Right.
It sounds to me like it was the same spirit, but you decide. Okay. So when we decided to play with the Ouija board, we went shopping, couldn't find it. I remember this, we're like, but of course, we don't let that stop us. We're like, we're going to make one. So, that's the fair.
Don't try this at home, folks.
Yeah, don't do this. Do not do this. So we went about that. I made one with a friend from, this is my sister and I and a couple of friends that neither of us are friends with anymore because, backstabbing, but I digress. So my sister, side note, it's not important.
Oh man, dangerous time to try to take a drink.
So anyway, we were at my sister's house in Sherman Oaks, and we had all the stuff. We had it set up. We had candles, we had silver, we had little sayings. We all did our research of like, this is what you say to invoke spirits. And I remember what started this was she felt like there was a ghost of a child in her house, and she wanted to talk to that spirit. And she would hear footsteps, and it sounded like kids' footsteps. She said it sounded light, overhead in the attic at night. And like she started to really, and she didn't feel like it was bad, but that's when she started to think, I really want to try this. And she was trying to talk me into it, and I was like, no, absolutely not. And then one day I was like, okay. So that's how that started. So we had it all set up, wanting to communicate with this spirit. She says the ambiance was perfect. That's what she said. Okay. So she called it a seance, which freaked me out because I didn't really think of it as a seance. But I guess that's honestly...
I mean, if you're intentionally trying to, like, bring a spirit to you, I suppose that's kind of...
I guess that is what you're doing. So we started out, there was a couple of quick, fun little quirky spirits that came to say hi, made their presence known, and then they would peace out and say goodbye. And then all of a sudden, you could just feel like there was this heavy presence in the room, you know? And then one spirit came back and said hi, and that one didn't seem threatening. And then it spelled out back room. And then right when that happened, the dogs, she had these two little dogs, they went tearing back into the back of the house and started barking in the back room. I forgot about this.
I don't like it.
I know. So her two little dogs were freaking out. And you know, that we're all like, oh, that's weird. So then the little planchet starts to move by itself. And we were starting to get a little freaked out. Like it started to like, just kind of like, I think our hands were on it, but it like took off a little bit. And we kept telling it to leave and it would say no. It kept going right to the no. I remember this very well. And then we'd ask him to say goodbye and the thing would just fly off the board to no again. And this kept going on and on and on. And I remember that there was this cold air that came in over our hands and you could feel like this swirl. And it did feel like there was just something in the room, like the hair on the back of your neck just started to raise. Let's see, all of our hands, she says, I remember all of our hands were not on it. We were just looking at each other like, what's going on? And then it just kept going back and forth 3 or 4 times. And then it started to spell out ha, 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 like it was laughing at us. And then let's see, there's this weird noise which caused the dogs to freak out, and then it spelled out run, and we're like, leave, and it kept saying no, and then it wrote out front door, and then it started counting down, and then the dogs ran to the front door, and they were barking and freaking out, and one of us got up, she couldn't remember which one of us it was, I kind of think it was me, got up to the front door, and I remember thinking I thought I saw red eyes outside the window, but I thought I was imagining that. I was like, no. You know, but then the thing started counting down again. It started doing that countdown. And it started from 10, 9, 8. And we were all like, it just felt heavy. And then when it got to the number 3, there was a knock on the door.
Can you hear my neighbor? It's really creepy considering the context. They're walking up above me.
So
Okay.
Let's see. And then it told us to run one more time. Let's see. And then we just kept demanding that it leave and say no, say goodbye. And then finally it did. Okay, so then afterwards, we were completely freaked out. We kept the board apart. I took the board, she kept the planchet. And she said she and her roommate started arguing all the time afterwards. I remember I was arguing with people, this friend that had done it with us too. I was around this person a lot at that time, and I was arguing with them all the time. Ugh. You know what I mean? Like
the backstabbing person, right?
Yeah, the backstabbing person.
Yeah.
It was weird. And then Amber's roommate, that planchet, they had put it away, and then it showed up in the living room. And each of them thought the other did it. And they're like, why did you do that? Why would you bring this out here? And they're like, I didn't do that. I didn't put it there. And they would go put it away. A day later, it was moved someplace else. It was like in the kitchen. And they were like, I know. And they were like, I didn't do it. So they went to, I talked about this once before, they went to the Psychic Eye, which is this bookstore here in LA that deals with, occults but really cool stuff too, though. Like really nice, fun, innocent stuff. You can get sage there, and really cool jewelry and books and stuff. And they started talking to somebody there, and this person dealt with black magic. And they're like, you dealt with a Ouija board? He's like, I don't even mess with that. He was like, and then when she told them the whole story, he was like, you guys are in serious trouble. You need to go bury it in like what they would call sacred ground, which would be like in nature, like with trees, like in a forest or something. So my sister and I went to a forest way down into the forest. I'm not going to say which one, and buried it, the planchet. And then I went with the other friend who had helped me make the board, and we went and buried that in another part of the woods. like, it's kind. You're not really supposed to do that, but that's what we did. Because then we had flashlights at night, making sure there weren't cops, not cops, but park rangers.
Oh, you're not supposed to dig
You're not supposed to dig in it. Yeah, but
I think because I think they think it could be a body.
Yeah, because
That's what
they would think
happens.
that, we're,
If they see disturbed dirt.
yeah, exactly.
Like, it's one reason why you can't bury a deceased pet in a public park.
Oh yeah, exactly. So
'Cause they
no, we were
think-
just burying a Ouija board. So
And why didn't you burn it? They told you specifically
they
to
said
bury
that
it.
wouldn't. They said that wouldn't. They said to specifically bury it, and to say something. We had some sort of thing to say to, and then after that, everything did feel better. It really did. And she said there was like this sense of, you felt like something left. She's like, it felt like there was, because we did it in her house. And she said the house felt so much more peaceful. And then she ends it by saying, it was fucked up. She's like, I've never played with one ever again. She's like, I refuse to do it. She goes, lessons have been learned, and no one should be fucking with it. That's what she says, because it's real. That's what she said.
I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I've heard a number of Ouija board experiences from people, and I've never heard anything positive. It's
Never.
always been like,
Never.
oh my, what have we done?
Yeah. Yeah. And she did go on to say, she wanted to say that not all spirits are bad. But I went on to tell her that that's demonic when something, with the number 3, they like to play with the number 3 because they like to make fun of the Holy Trinity. And when she said that it knocked on when we got to 3, I forgot that it knocked when it was counting down, and it got to 3. And I was like, I almost said Bridget, Amber, that was probably demonic, and so it made me go look up the Ouija board. Like you said, nobody really knows where the Ouija board came from. Like who really made it.
Yeah.
And that makes me question, especially after everything that we've been learning and what we talked about last episode with exorcisms and,
Right.
Who wanted to make that something to send out to the masses? I mean, for real.
Oh, like mass produce it as a game.
Yeah.
Like,
because
literally, why is this showing up at Walmart and all these, and Target probably? Like, why is this being
because
sold like a game?
it is not a game.
It's either
and-
somebody who's completely ignorant or somebody who knows exactly what this actually is.
has an agenda.
It's kind of hard to imagine that it's completely innocent.
And after what we read, and that's what they were saying, is that stuff happened. It wasn't in the spiritualism became big. The Ouija board was created around the 1800s, is what they think, around the time of the Civil War. Even Mary Todd Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln's wife, when their son died, she would try to mess around with being able to talk to their dead son. So spiritualism, was big back then. They called it spiritualism.
Of course, I can understand the desire to want to be in touch with loved ones that have passed.
Yeah.
Of course, I can understand that.
Yeah.
I think the danger is when you don't realize that there's a whole other ball game. There's like a whole other type of entity, not just passed over loved ones.
Exactly. That's the whole thing with this, is that you are creating an invitation to let something in, and they're just waiting for that. I believe that. I really do. And that and it presents itself as something nice. Sometimes this couple had said that, the couple that wanted to be anonymous, they won't do anything for a really long time. They present themselves, it's an insidious energy. They're saying this in the Deliver Us from Evil book, in Malachi Martin's book. It's smart. It depends on the level of what, entity you're dealing with. They're smart. They're intelligent. They like to make you think that it's a part of your own psyche, that you're imagining it. They want to make you feel singled out. Nobody else is seeing this. Nobody else is experiencing it.
And this is why you made that association with, perhaps that is what drove that person to commit suicide, is maybe that dark entity was there first.
Exactly. Fascinating. But the planchet would show up, and was it who said that about the was it Michael who said that the board kept showing up?
Yeah, that was Michael.
I mean, and these are the things, and I'm reading these books, and I'm still, even though I know that this is true and these are reliable people, I'm still like having a hard time believing, like, how could this really be? But I know that it does,
I also think when something shows up in a movie, it almost makes it less believable. you know?
Mm-hmm.
'Cause it feels like, oh, it's just something somebody made up in their imagination.
No,
But
maybe
also
that's where
it's
they got the idea.
defying the laws of gravity. It defies, I mean, it just doesn't fit with our paradigm. But that's the thing, just because there's the analogy, where did I get this from? I feel like somebody just sent this to us. The analogy of, if everything that we know about the universe is the size of a quarter, and that's everything we've ever learned and can understand. But then you imagine another circle around that, and that's everything we don't know yet. It's basically saying, don't you think that somewhere in there could be where God, devil, you know, all these things that are unknowable, unexplainable, what happens after we die, doesn't it all just exist in there somewhere in the unknown? It could.
It really could.
Yeah.
And that's what we're saying. We're not trying to convince you. You know, we just know from
Maybe
personal
warn
experience.
you a little bit.
Yeah,
Because
we're
whether
trying to
you
warn
believe
you,
it or
though.
not, it's kind of like,
And that's what everyone says. Whether you believe in it or not, it's real. You know, so it might be wise to choose a side. I don't know. I mean, I choose good. I'm going to say it. I say it out loud. Like, I'm not... That, you know... And all of this that freaked us out, like we were saying, it freaked us out. It's not that it did scare me, but it didn't scare me in that way. It just freaked me out. All of the underground occult, and cults in the world. I didn't really, and you know, because it's a conspiracy. There's so many conspiracy theories right now that makes you think, oh, that stuff's such bullshit. That's not true. There's not really Satanists out there. Blah blah blah.
or there's not really people who are doing this to children, or there's not really, like,
That's
yeah.
their strength. I think. I do think that they know that. They know that.
There's the intelligence, the counterintelligence. There's information that's contradicting it's, and we're bombarded, and when we're bombarded with so much, now that we have access to the internet, everybody does, it's like so much information. Should we play Matthew?
Yeah, let's play. Yeah, my timer's about to go off, so this is perfect.
All right, here we go.
What's up, Bridget? What's up, Marshelle? My name is Matthew, and I am the host of West Coast Radio up in Seattle.
Pause. I wanted to say this about Matthew. I almost forgot. Met Matthew on Instagram. Super nice guy. We chatted about Seattle a bit because that's where I'm from. All the links to his podcast, because we told him we would mention it, West Coast Radio. You can get access to everything of his on Instagram. All right, so let's hear what Matthew has to say.
I want to thank you for your shout-out, and also I want to point out I'm a big fan of the show. I really enjoy it, and I listen every single episode. All right, this ghost story happened when I was about 15 years old. It was the summer before my sophomore year of high school. And am I a ghost believer? Am I not a ghost believer? I don't really know. All I know is I had this experience. I'll never forget it. Do I know if ghosts are real or not? No, but I know this happened. Before my sophomore year of high school, like I said, in the summertime, I have this brand new puppy, and his name is Apollo. And Apollo at the time was very, very sweet, very quiet, and didn't really even bark. Just a real sweet, quiet dog. And he would sleep at the foot of my bed every single night. Maybe Apollo is 3 months old at this point. So one night, I'm sleeping and I hear and I feel the vibration of Apollo growling. And he had never growled before. So I'm woken up. He must have been growling for a little while, but I'm woken up and I can feel him growling. And I'm starting to come to my wits, get my wits about me. And he's really growling, and it's progressing, and it's getting ferocious. Now at this point, it sounds not so much like a tiny little poodle puppy. Now it sounds like a real ferocious German Shepherd. It's really freaking me out. It's just growling like that. I'm looking at Apollo, and he's just snarling, just really, really getting upset, just jumping. But he won't leave my bed. He's just sort of leaping just shy of jumping off of my bed, sort of just lingering on the edge. I look up, and there's something standing in front of me. And I think it's maybe about 5'2", 5 feet tall, something like that. It's, very skinny. I can make out skinny arms, skinny legs. I can make out feet. Bone structure, sunken in eye sockets, sunken in cheekbones and all that stuff, very defined features. I couldn't see any hair or anything like that, but I also saw that it was dressed in something like big baggy robes. It looked like something, if you look up samurai armor, it looks like the baggy clothing that goes underneath samurai armor. and it was like long robes, and it was cut off at the forearm and at the forefoot. Because I remember distinctly seeing the shins and the forearm and the hands, and it was very elegant, very beautiful. You know, in the movies, when you look at something and somebody sees a ghost for the first time, they blink and that ghost disappears. That wasn't true for this situation. I kept blinking, and this thing was still there. It was standing in front of me, and it was looking at me. There's a couple things I want to point out. When you see something like this, it's not of this world, for sure. And you notice that real quick. So when I describe this, it's not going to be exactly accurate, but it's the best I can do. This thing looked like, it was all black, but it wasn't black like construction paper, like finite and solid. It was like you're looking up at a black night sky. It was vast and it went on forever, but it was like hazy at the same time. It legit, it looked like you were looking at the night sky. That's sort of the color of this thing. And then oozing out of it was this, again, you can't describe this with the human language, but the best I can do is it's like this purplish blue, sort of like ooze radiating from all, I guess, pores of it. Like it was outlining it, and it was moving, and it was fluid, and all of that stuff. And I'm looking at it, and then it starts walking towards me. And it's the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. It looked like it was walking on a cloud or something. It was like the most elegant, most smooth supermodel walk you would ever see. And it defined every movement, one foot in front of the other, using its arms to propel itself forward. Everything was exaggerated. And then it came right up to me. It looked down at me. And I'm marveling in its beauty, but also my brain is in shock because I'm for sure awake. I remember my dog was going nuts, but at the same time, I'm marveling at this and I'm helpless to it. I can't control, I'm just looking up at it. I see its chin look down on me as I'm laying down, and I say, trying to like almost save myself. I didn't feel like I was in danger, but I was like, hey, I got to make friends with this thing or something, Hey, Mom, why are you trying to scare me is what I say. Hey, Michael, my brother's name, why are you trying to scare me? It doesn't answer. And I go, I'm processing now that this is something very bizarre. I close my eyes, I sprint to my light switch, I turn the light switch on, I turn the television on, that thing isn't there anymore, obviously, and I just cry. I start bawling, and I can't go to sleep. And I'm not crying because I'm sad or I was in fear for my life. Again, I never felt in fear for my life. There were no rotten smells or anything like that. What I had seen was not of this world. I couldn't process it. And I think that adrenaline dump just made me cry. And to this day, I will not sleep in that room in my home. So that's my story. I've never seen anything like it since. I want to thank you very much for your time. Again, I love sorta, kinda. All right. Peace out.
Awesome, Matthew. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. I like his voice.
Yeah.
He sounds so adorable.
He's fun.
Thank you, Matthew. I've never heard that.
Yeah, that's very unique.
Mm-hmm.
I thought what was interesting was, okay, so obviously the dog was very disturbed by it, but that he, even though he talked about this adrenaline dump, he talked about how beautiful it was.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting because that's not often the takeaway of these types of experiences for people is the beauty of something. And also the way he was describing it, he was saying the word ooze, but what I was wondering is I'm wondering if he's seeing like energy moving, like if it's an energy.
I wanted to know that too, actually. Like, is he saying, because if he's really saying something oozing, that doesn't sound good to me. But if it's something that's sort of radiating.
Well, and I think, again, he's saying words are limiting. I'm going to do my best trying to describe this, but, just the idea that you're looking at something that's as vast looking as looking at the night sky. And also that it was confronting in that it walked right up to him and was looking down at him. That's interesting to me.
That's fascinating.
Why is it there? Like, why did it show up?
Like, what is that? I wouldn't sleep in that room either, though, Matthew. I wouldn't. So I agree with you. I just, why tempt it? Why do that? I'm really curious what that is. The word that comes to mind with that is like Stargate kind of stuff. I wonder what... We'll have to, what? It would be fun to do an episode on the good things that people see, like the positive. Usually they're angel stories, but I'd be curious.
Or they're like loved ones. Sometimes it's loved ones that have visited. I feel like the aspect of this also that really stands out is, again, the dog, because animals, I have cats. I love dogs. I just can't have one in my building. But you'll often see a cat just like looking at something and kind of do like the love eyes at something or not. Sometimes it just stares. I I rarely ever see a cat get just randomly spooked by something that isn't logical, like a noise that they heard outside or something. But I've certainly seen them looking at stuff where you're just like, what is it? What is that?
Well, cats are supposed to be very, like, magical in that sense. They sense.
I sure as hell feel safer with one around, honestly, ever since I was a kid.
Yeah. I remember that really haunted house in Missouri. I had a cat there, Raven. I named her Raven.
Oh, I like that.
She would get she was solid black, beautiful. She would get spooked in that house, and she wouldn't leave my side though. She would not leave my side.
I mean, is it okay if I say that Balsam got a little growly?
Oh yeah. Balsam.
You were telling me.
He's been really jumpy ever since we started really getting into this, and that's not my imagination. And I try to logically maybe he's just hearing something outside or but he barks at the TV anyway.
Yeah.
But if there's a wolf on there or something, he's protecting us. But he's been out of the blue, like really freaked out about this one area in the house, both upstairs and downstairs. This one wall, and at first
the
it was
same wall,
upstairs.
like stacked.
That's
weird.
And that's why I got a crucifix. That's why it's right over there. But to be completely honest with you, I don't care. I will totally admit that. And Tommy's, of course, he's too cool for school. He's like, I'm like, yeah, maybe he just saw a reflection because there's a mirror on this one wall.
Yeah.
But then I was like, okay, maybe that is what happened. Although in the back of my mind, I'm clocking it. I'm like,
You're like, take note.
Yeah, taking note. I think there's something else going on. And then we were down here, in the She Shed studio. He loves this room. He's always down here with me. Never, ever gotten spooked. The other night, he's laying in front of my feet on the floor here and just starts... You could feel that he kind of sat up a little bit. He's still laying down, but he just kind of pulled his head up. And then he started to do this low, rumbling growl, which is... He doesn't do that.
That'd creep me out.
Yeah, and then he's looking over at that wall... But the downstairs side of it, the downstairs aspect of it. And he's growling, and it starts to get louder and louder. And I'm just watching what's going on because I don't want to, but I try to calm him down a little bit, but he wasn't having it. He goes around the coffee table, comes over here, starts barking at the wall. I'm like, is he freaking out on a shadow? But he's down here all the time.
Yeah.
Like,
I've never heard him get creeped out down there ever.
Ever. This is his favorite room.
We used to do like...
Yeah.
The first at least 11 episodes we shot in that studio.
Yeah. And he wasn't having it. And I'll tell you, I haven't exercised until yesterday. I haven't done anything at night in this room. I have definitely, and I don't think it's in my head, I've definitely felt spooked. And so I did this huge cleansing. We were both talking about it. Like, we ordered crucifixes and things, and felt like
symbols are really powerful. As a matter of fact, we talked about we're going to do a future episode on the power of symbols and symbology, etc. But like, symbols are really something. So so we were like, it's not going to hurt.
No. But I got to say, after saging and doing all of that and then putting it does feel better in here, and the dog hasn't freaked out since.
That's good. Okay,
yeah.
There you go.
But that's what they say. Like, when you talk about this stuff, and when you talk about, let's say, some of the experiences I've had over the years, you're bringing it attention back to yourself again. You're also giving it energy again, is what they say. So who knows? I mean, maybe
Yeah,
I mean, red flag.
It's not something that I would recommend focusing on all the time,
No.
but I also think knowledge is power. So it's important to at least be aware of the dynamics at play.
Yeah, exactly. And focus on the good. Do focus on the good, but just don't be, like we say,
don't
an ostrich
idolize it to the extent that you're in denial, because then you can be... imagine somebody who's really naive being released into the world. It's like, good luck. Aren't you a little worried? Aren't you just a little worried that they might become a victim of someone who's, got street smarts that they don't have? I feel like it's kind of the same thing. You want to have an awareness, but you want to find the balance between being informed and still choosing where you place your focus.
Yeah. I think on that note, unless you have anything else you want to say, I think that's a good
No,
place
I'm
to,
about ready to die. It's so hot in here, so
I know.
I'm good.
I didn't want to powder.
I mean, I just straight up did earlier.
I
I
know.
was like, I'm just gonna just this.
I didn't want to because I didn't want to be distracting, so I didn't do it. But whew, man.
Yeah.
It's hot. It's hot.
I'm very sweaty right now.
Yes. But we love you guys.
Yeah. Clearly, Instagram is becoming a great hub for communication. Pretty much everybody we heard from in these stories are, if we didn't already know them, are people through Instagram. that are interacting with us and engaging. And sorta@gmail.com if you would like to share your story or experience. We're going to be doing more of these episodes. So
Yeah, we'd like to periodically do these. It's really fun. And, tell people about us. Like, subscribe, but tell
especially
people about
those
us.
of you that are in this episode, you better share it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I don't know what we're going to do next week. Who knows?
Yeah, like we said, we're talking symbolism, we're talking prophecies, we're talking serendipity. Like, we have a lot of things that we will be doing. It's just a matter of what order are they going to come out of the pipeline. But
And like what really sparks our interest the most at that time. So
we try to be really organic with how we create the show and make sure we're in a place where that's why sometimes we'll take time off. It's like if life demands it. So
yeah.
So yeah, we'll it's a bit of a roll of the dice, but we'll see. Okay.
All right, so on that note, bye,
All
you
right,
guys.
Bye.